Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's not why I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode, another one of my sort of editorials. So, hey, you want to click it off, that's okay. I just have this compulsion to do these videos. And this one is unfortunately caused by not sleeping last night. What happened to me last night that I didn't sleep? Cat problems. So my daughter is away. She's abroad at taking some class actually, for college, and so her room is closed off. She'll be back in a week or so. It's Christmas break class, but anyway, she texted me yesterday and she said she needed a document that was in her room and she wanted me to take a shot with my camera and send it back to her, which I did. And I was in her room for about 5 minutes, tops. Closed the door. Everything was cool until about 1 o'clock in the morning when I start hearing mew, mew, and scratching on a door someplace. Well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm in a deep sleep. I wake up because for me, when the cat is crying, it's like a baby's crying, right? I'm just like, oh, I wake up. And I'm thinking, where is it coming from? So I'm like going around the house, checking like my closet, the bathroom. I was downstairs, upstairs, everything. And it finally dawned on me that I accidentally locked the cat in my daughter's bedroom. Went, opened the door. There was the cat. Cat was a little upset with me, but we're friends now. We've made up. I've given her treats and told her I was sorry, so we're all good. And the cat, no worse where the cat was only in there for a number of hours. I mean, it wasn't like she was there for days or anything. But so I couldn't fall asleep then. I started thinking about different stuff, and of course, my mind drifted to cameras and mostly some of these videos. Now, I've told you that I'm watching less of these influencer videos, but I still do watch them, especially if there's a big announcement or something, just because it's a way to get news. And it's so interesting to me how they just flip-flop back and forth. And so if you take anything that they say as gospel truth one time, well, wait a week or a month or whatever, and it's not going to be gospel truth anymore. So, for instance, many people are now saying how awesome the Canon 1DX Mark III is. A lot of them haven't tried it, but I'm sure it is super awesome because it's the top line, almost $7,000 camera, and how they're reinventing the way that they're thinking about DSLRs. So the husband and wife couple, the man in the couple was saying how a lot of high-level professional photographers, sports photographers, want a DSLR because of the optical viewfinder. Wait, I thought I was supposed to get a mirrorless camera and that I was behind the times. They're also talking about, when you look at the specs of that camera, you'll notice something interesting. It's not 30 megapixels, 40 megapixels, 60 megapixels, pixels, or 80 megapixels. It's 20 megapixels. So this is the top of the line camera that the most elite sports photographers and probably wildlife photographers and people that are doing like photos for newspapers and magazines and for news and such are going to use. The absolute pinnacle of Canon, right? And it's 20 megapixels. So is that a shame? No. What it tells you is that 20 megapixels is plenty enough for the glossiest cover of a magazine, for the biggest billboard, for the New York Times newspaper, for anything. It's enough. And in fact, 15 megapixels is probably enough. 12 megapixels is probably enough. And why do these photographers want these smaller megapixel size cameras? Well, because it's easier to send those files. It's easier to modify those files. It's easier to deal with those files, to store those files. For many, many reasons, a smaller file size is desirable. Just like in many cases, a JPEG is more desirable than a RAW file. Yes, RAW files have more information. I understand that. But JPEGs have plenty of information. And for many of us, when we're trying to simplify our workflow and we're concentrating more on composing the picture and exposing it correctly, etc., JPEGs work. So I just think it's interesting that now that we have the 1DX Mark III and Nikon has introduced the D780, successor to the D750, and I think it really kind of says that DSLRs are not quite out the door quite yet. don't sell all of your gear so you could be in the latest trend. A camera takes a picture, whether it's a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. If you want to go that route, great. I think if you're into videography, it makes sense to go with the more modern cameras because they have better video features. But if you're just an old school photographer like I am, you don't need to. And I have both. I have mirrorless cameras and I have DSLRs. So I'm doing an architectural photo shoot today, and I'm going with my massive 5D Mark III. This is the Mark IV actually. 5D Mark IV. I just like using big cameras professionally just because I'm a little more steady with them in my hands, and I just love all the buttons and stuff. It just makes my life so much easier when I'm under pressure. However, I never use those cameras when I'm walking about because they're just massive bricks. So I have a bevy of other cameras, and just to let you know, so I pulled out my old Olympus OMD EM1, no mark, just the original OMD EM1. This is the one with contrast detection focus. It has phase detection for certain lenses, but not for lenses native to Micro Four Thirds. I'm telling you, I'm just blown away by this camera. I just love it. Now, you say this is such a big Micro Four Thirds camera. Oh, who wants a big? Well, but you gotta look at it in comparison, right? That's the comparison there. This is a 16 megapixel camera. I use this over the holidays at a lot of Christmas and holiday get-togethers. The focusing was fantastic. I would say in low light, of course, contrast detect is not going to be quite as good. But most cameras don't have very good focusing in low light. But it did focus. But in regular light, super fast, super accurate, fantastic focusing. The image quality was superb, beautiful. I love the colors that I get from Olympus cameras. I just was blown away. I love the dials and setup. It's a little bit different than the like Canons, for instance, but you use it for an hour or so, or you get used to it. And clearly, a camera like this, in my type of work, I could use for any professional job. And as I said millions of times, any intermediate or above level camera made in the last 10 years will take great pictures. It has good enough dynamic range, it has good enough focusing, and it has good enough low light performance. Some cameras have better, but it has good enough, and all you have to do is figure out how to work around it. So a camera like this with the right lens, like a 7-14 wide angle lens, would work perfectly for my architectural photography work, because most of those images, by the way, get shrunk down for a blog, and most of those images get shrunk down for like Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and LinkedIn feeds. So I mean, I take a 16 or a 30 megapixel in the case of the Canon, and I shrink it down to like 1 or 2 megapixels. That's because you want those images to load fast on those in those, especially on the web pages. So I don't need 100 megapixels. Although I do have a Sony A7R2, so I think it's like 40 some megapixels, and I have a Nikon 850. I almost never use those cameras. The files are just too big for me. They're fantastic, great cameras, but I just don't need it for just about anything. Anyway, so just a thought. Again, my whole mission here is to counter the thought that new photographers have to go out and buy $5,000 or $10,000 worth of equipment to become really great photographers. What you really need to do is get a reasonably okay camera that has enough controls that you can muck around with them a bit and take lots and lots of pictures. That's what you need to do. The more pictures you take, the more scenarios you will encounter that you will have to solve. Bad lighting, side lighting, backlighting, whatever, all that kind of stuff, bad white balance. You'll have to solve those problems, but you'll also get better and better at composing your images, and that's what makes a great photograph, right? It has nothing to do with how many megapixels you have or how many focus points you have, as long as you're in focus. So that's that thought, and again, just kudos to Olympus for making such a great and awesome camera that I just loved using it after all these years. And kudos to Canon for making this big giant brick that I feel like is indestructible. And kudos to Sony for being innovative. And kudos to Panasonic for its video. Kudos to all these cameras. But what I'm saying to you, as hopefully, especially if you're a beginning photographer, is use what you got. If you find out that it's completely inadequate, okay, upgrade, change, do whatever you have to do. But you're going to get more mileage figuring out how to solve a problem than you are just solving it with technology. It's better to know how to focus a camera than to just invest X thousands of dollars so you can get one that has super duper eye detect. I guess it's fine to have that, but it's also important to know how to focus your camera. A couple things to also say, kind of shout outs for myself. So if you like this video, please subscribe or give me a thumbs up. Both those things really help me. They make me want to make more videos. I know this is not a camera company is going to come to me and ask me to be a sponsor. I'm not only because I'm too small of a subscriber base, but also because I'm telling people not to buy new cameras. So if you like this message, please subscribe. I would really appreciate that, and give me a thumbs up. If you don't, just be respectful. If it's a stupid comment, I'm going to delete it. But if it's respectful, I'll keep it in my feed. If you don't like what I'm doing. Other thing is that I've changed up my podcast. Podcast is called Psychiatric Secrets Revealed. You could find it on iTunes. You can go directly to the site, which is Psychiatric Secrets, all one word, .libsyn, LIBSYN.com. And what I'm doing now is I'm actually doing an oral reading of my blog. So I'm kind of branching. I have hundreds of episodes in the podcast on psychiatric topics, but now I'm just talking about my own personal reflections on things. Just talking about Christmas. And I'm actually on a little bit of a modified fast now, trying to not for health reasons, but for more spiritual reasons. And so I'm going to talk about that on my next post. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, give it a listen. But you could also read about it, and there'll also be some pictures if you look at my blog post, which is drmikekuna.com, drmikekuna.com. Either will give you all kind of secret details about me. I don't get that many secrets, but if you want to know them, that's the place to go. So if you stuck through this video, I thank you very much. And I just want to tell you to have a wonderful day. And thanks so much again. Bye-bye.